I want to tell y'all something that might or might not be surprising. I know to my typical viewers, it's probably not surprising. But if anyone wanders in from the netherworld, if any normies wander in to watch this video and hear what I have to say, uh, you might be surprised and you might doubt me. Um, but Hitler had rizz. And I'm not just talking about post 1933 Hitler. I'm not just talking about after he came to power. Um, the what do they call them? Primary documents, second. I don't. The there's um, a book written by a man named August Kubasek called The Hitler I Knew, and this guy was a childhood friend of Hitler and one of the only friends, one of the few people who was close to Hitler at this stage in his life, because Hitler was sort of a loner. He was sort of he didn't have many friends. He wasn't close to that many people. He sort of kept to himself. But August and Adolf hit it off because they had a shared interest in music and the arts. August was uh, a musician, and and Adolf was a at the time an aspiring painter slash architect, and they both loved Wagner, operas, and all kinds of things related to to the arts. And in this book, The Hitler I Knew, Kupasek talks about how young Hitler was constantly getting attention from women, um, but he was absolutely uninterested. He did not reciprocate. He was not. He was just. Uh, he felt himself to be on a different plane somehow. The way that Kubasek tells the story. But according to Kubasek, it was just something that happened all the time. They would be out somewhere together, and they would pass by a group of girls, and they would all look back and giggle and uh, they would find ways to try to flirt with Adolf, and it happened on occasion after occasion after occasion, according to Kubasek. Uh, Young Hitler was not, if you see pictures of him, he wasn't like uh, he wasn't ugly, but he also wasn't strikingly handsome. He was, there was nothing really extraordinary about his appearance as far as looks go. He was fairly average. Um, but there was something about him that drew women to him, and uh, the only the only thing that August really talks about in the book, the only quality of his that he found that he thinks is the only physical attribute that he thinks is an extraordinary one is his eyes, his piercing blue eyes. And this is something they would talk about later. There'd be a lot of reference to Hitler's eyes, and calling them piercing or hypnotic, uh, or what have you. Um, so, but in any case, there were there's time after time. There was one time where the two boys they're like uh, they're in Vienna together. They grew up in together in Linz. They got to know each other as teenagers, and then they traveled. They both traveled to Vienna, uh, pursuing their goals in the arts. Kubasek again wanted to be a musician. He was a viola player with the orchestra in Linz, and he had aspirations to be a conductor. Uh, and Hitler, of course, applied to art school and was rejected. As this is popularly told. This is a much told tale. And while after he was rejected, he just kind of hung out, lived off of his pension, uh, or the pension that he got from his. He was he was an orphan, so he had some allowance coming to him, and it wasn't much, but he basically just lived off of it for a little while. Did odd jobs every now and then, but anyway, the main point, the main emphasis is that is to say that Hitler was had rizz as a young man, but it wasn't something that he seemed to have any. Um, I wasn't. I was going to say it was something he didn't have any control over, but maybe he did eventually, use it to his benefit when he began speaking publicly. When he became known as an orator, when he was in the early days of the NSDAP, um, he was of course always well known for his speeches, um, and his ability to draw in an audience and bring them along with him, and just this is not even controversial. This is something that's well known about what exactly the Hitler mystique was. Um, but so there's the account given by August Kubasik in his book, and then there are accounts of the early days of the party, uh, and how you know like there would be um, women here or there who like he had a female driver at one time who was very obviously into him, and tried to flirt with him, and and there were you know other cases, other similar cases like that, and of course when he spoke, it was primarily to a group of men in those days, but the women who were there were definitely drawn to him. So again, this was before he became powerful. After he after he became powerful, after he was the ruler, the Führer, the dictator of Germany, then of course there's plenty of filmic footage of girls and women, just passing out and screaming, like it was with the Beatles 30 years later. It was the same kind of deal, that they would just lose their minds over him. But at that point, you could say it was, the allure of power, the power being the ultimate aphrodisiac, um, as Henry Kissinger has famously said. Um, but even in the days when he had no power, even in the days when he was just some wandering idler uh, with no clear path in life. Um, you know, just struggling to get by, living this desperate bohemian lifestyle in the slums of Vienna. Even in that sort of grim period, he still apparently got attention from women. Now, he, again, according to August, his friend, it never interested him, and he just sort of looked down on it. He saw, he was aware of it when it happened, and he would just like, there was a time where I was about to tell the story earlier, and I got sidetracked. There was a time when the two of them were looking for uh, a place to rent, a cheap place to rent, and they ended up in this one place where the hostess um, it was a nicer place than what they were used to seeing, and the hostess was talking to them, and but eventually, she did something to indicate, that she wanted to maybe have a fling with Adolf. And August, again, it's like he noticed it. They both noticed it. It was something very blatant. And Adolf, of course, just wasn't. Neither of them were interested, and they beat a hasty retreat. And Adolf said something like, what a potiphar, what a regular potiphar," referring to the uh, the woman of the house who tried to seduce Joseph in the Bible. Um, so there was also an occasion where uh, they met this other man. They were out in some public place at some gathering or other, and this other man started talking to them both, uh, and he eventually this other man eventually left, and uh, to August he seemed like a okay guy. In fact, he seemed to like him. He thought he was thought he was smart and thought he had some interesting things to say or whatever. And Adolf then said, "Look," and he took out a note, and it turned out to be a note that this man had slipped over to surreptitiously slipped to Adolf with his contact information, basically making a pass at him, and so you know Adolf caught on that this was a homosexual, which in the early 1900s in Vienna, um, you had to be a little more discreet about living that kind of life. This was not the Weimar Republic of in Berlin, but so things like that were going on, and I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing to note.